NZ Aerosports, Icarus Canopies, now Gyro. That's right, we've rebranded, and Gyro is our next generation. It honours our founder, as that's the name we knew him by, but Gyro also marks the start of a new chapter. And not to be biased, but it's going to be fucking epic. Long story short, we're more us than ever, so if you're new to the sport, or even a Sky God Ninja Turtle, welcome. I think our valiant leader Lucy, Gyro's daughter, says it best.
And we still got that fuck yeah attitude. Rebrand! Woo!
Rebrand woo indeed, Lucy. Anyway, head over to gyro.com for more info and get amongst you legends.
I was 19, broke, unemployed, and sold my girlfriend's canopy for drug money. So I thought I better sew her a new one. What a sentence, and what a story. This describes the humble yet outrageous beginnings of NZ Aerosports, the home of Icarus Canopies, in the words of our founder himself. From getting a paratrooper toy from his mom, watching parachutes at the DZ as a 6-year-old, jumping off the wharf with a parachute made from bed sheets, doing his first jump at 16, sewing his first canopy on a borrowed machine at 19, and starting to sell parachutes out of a garage in 1986, Paul Gyro Martin had an undying love for the sky. Our company started with one man with the wildest of spirits and a true blue sky dream, a renegade. In the time that Gyro created and ran the Icarus Canopies brand until he passed away in 2017, he pushed everything he had to its limits. We miss him, and we always will. Gyro is the next generation of NZ Aerosports. It honors our founder, of course, because it was the name we all knew him by, but Gyro the rebrand also marks the start of a new chapter, our next jump. Gyro is the space between sound and silence, art and science, chaos and calm. Gyro is a state of epic tranquility that transcends understanding. That moment, in the door, in free fall, mid-swoop, where nothing but the present exists. A perfect balance of euphoria and thrill. Gyro captures our passion for flying and our commitment to designing break-the-fucking-rules canopies that deliver pilots pure, wild flight. Hey gang, so I got a new book out. It's called The Upside of Fear, and it's exactly what you think it's about. It's about the good side of, well, getting scared. In it, we talk not only about the science and biology behind fear, but the psychology as well. And it's not just coming from me, it's coming from some of the best in the sport. Omar Alhigelan, Jeff Provenzano, Maxine Tate, and so many more have contributed their sometimes terrifying stories to the book to help you overcome your fear. So head to the lunaticfringepodcast.com. You're going to find the link to the book there, as well as the other books. It's available in ebook, paperback, hardback, and audiobook right now.
Coming straight from the cockpit, it's another episode of Lunatic Fringe with the fucking pilot.
Ready, set, go! Back in the can for another edition of the Lunatic Fringe podcast and another friendly face on the other side of the line. Who the fuck are you, and what do you do?
Hey, I'm Matt Fry. I'm a big way organizer, competitive skydiver, mountaineer, scuba diver, endurance athlete. I try to do a bit of everything, really.
Dude, I flipped through your Facebook. I've done it a few times now, trying to figure out what angle I want to talk about the most, but you've done so much shit. I mean, I would go from, you just got back from Amadablam we were talking about, and then I'd flip a few more photos down, and there's you in a triathlon wetsuit, and then the next one's doing big way stuff. I mean, you're a busy dude.
I try to stay busy, yeah. Just keep moving forward.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing. So now, where are you these days? You're in Colorado?
So I live in Denver as much as I can, but especially the last year or so, I feel like I've been traveling so much, I'm never home.
Well, especially if you just got back from Nepal and you said that that was an extensive trip out there.
It was, yeah. It was a 5-week trip. And for sure, leading up to that and immediately after, you really want some downtime, but no rest for the wicked, I suppose.
Yeah, fair enough.
got back from Nepal and immediately turned around for the sequential world record. Then some other skydiving events, recent Wisconsin state record, and it's just been go, go, go.
So how did it all start for you? I mean, was this something that you've been doing your whole life, or what was the first time you ventured into the realm of extreme sports?
Um, Probably, in my late teens, I lived in Virginia, just outside of DC, and there's not a heck of a lot to do out there.
Right.
It's not covered in mischief. Um, so my buddy and I would go to Great Falls Park, and there's lots of little cliffs, and there's a river there, and we'd kind of do this rocky scramble over the water, and that was super fun. And we'd go back over and over again, then start doing some rock scrambles, et cetera, et cetera. And then eventually we ended up on a rock scramble where we're like, oh, fuck, like, how do we get down? We're like in the middle of the wall, not sure how to get up, how to go down. All we can do is go to the side, and we, are traversing across, go around a corner. And then all of a sudden there's all these people there with ropes, and they're rock climbing this face. We're like, oh, you can do that? Like, for some reason, it just slowly evolved and never occurred to us that, oh, we could just actually rock climb this for real. Um, so we eventually got down without hurting ourselves. And throughout this whole progression, it started with, yeah, if we screw up, maybe we sprain an ankle. If we screw up, maybe we break a bone. And then we hit the point where it's like, if we screw up, we're going to get really hurt. So, after we realized you could climb there, we went to REI the next weekend, bought a rope, bought 2 harnesses, and a book on how to rock climb. And, started climbing in Virginia, then moving into rock climbing in West Virginia. And then eventually, through friends and coworkers, tried skydiving and started pouring a lot of my energies into that.
Sure. It's funny because the rock climbing stuff, I lived in Las Vegas for a long time, and we'd go out to Red Rock Canyon all the time, and every year they kill a couple of tourists that start scrambling up the rocks and find themselves cornered and can't get back out. So you
Mhm.
went from potentially what was either a serious injury with a lot of PTSD or doing what you did. I mean, it sounds to me like you were right at that edge.
Yeah, I think so. I think, coming around the corner and seeing, these are baby walls, right? If you've
Sure.
never climbed before, or if you're a climber, but walking around the corner and there's a full REI class of just, a dozen people on the face was really eye opening.
I bet.
Um, it was really, I don't know, it was really cool journey after that, just doing some trial and error, semi teaching ourselves to rock climb, um, making a lot of mistakes there.
Oh, I mean, and that
Yeah.
rock climbing can be a very unforgiving sport to learn, even when you're with someone that knows what's going on. Because at the end of the day,
Mhm.
when you're on the pointy end of the rope, it's up to you to make sure that you're doing things correctly. So, learning, man, your learning curve must have been through the roof.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, just buying a book, I'm happy to dig in and look for resources. And after that, starting to take classes at the local rock gym. Um, yeah, once I'm invested in a project, I just want to absorb information and
Sure.
get as good as I can.
Now, what age were you when this was going on?
This must have been maybe, let's call it 20,
Okay. Now,
like
was there
19, 20, 21.
what was the plan for life at 19, 20 when you're learning how to rock climb?
No plan for life.
Ah,
You know, I was pretty mischievous in high school, so by time I graduated, um, any long-term life plan was already like shot in the foot. So I was in community college, switching my major every couple months.
hmm,
So I didn't have a lot of direction just yet. I was managing a bookstore and making decent retail money and excited to have it.
sure. Oh, I definitely
Yeah.
remember those times when the most mundane jobs meant a paycheck every week, so they were pretty great jobs.
Yep. Yep.
Now, how
Mhm.
did skydiving creep into the equation? What was that first jump?
Yeah, the first jump was a tandem, maybe at 20, with a buddy. We went for our birthdays. I think we actually went the day after a Halloween boogie. So we show up and the drop zone's covered in empty beer cans and cases, and everyone's hungover and stinky. And it was a fun experience, but I thought it was just ride the ride, do something extreme, and then we're done.
Sure.
Then a couple years later, a coworker invited me to try AFF. Hey, take a class, you get your own parachute. Totally a different experience in tandem, and that sounded really fun. And then while I was there, they hooked me hard. They're like, come back again. It's $30 cheaper, and we'll teach you how to move forward and backwards. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, all right, that sounds cool.
Yep.
And then it really snowballed with each subsequent visit.
As it does. I mean, it's
Yeah.
kind of funny too, because it's for me, it was the mix of the new things that I was learning were crazy exciting and a lot of fun. But more than that, it was the fact that I overcame whatever chunk of fear I had that almost kept me from going. And that mix together was just fucking intoxicating. It was, wait a second, I can overcome fear and kind of have fun doing it. Holy shit, this is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. It was just kind of this calculated risk, right? Like there's inherently some level of danger, but they've kind of figured this out. Um, so that has a lot of appeal, just that calculated risk. And then admittedly, this is in the era of, I think, MySpace.
Sure.
Social media has just kicked off. I'm like, I'm gonna dazzle my friends and family with my AFF jumps.
Yeah.
So 23-year-old me at this point, like, that played a role
Of
in
course.
motivating me to come back and spend more money.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's definitely the cool factor thing, right? I mean, I was the only skydiver in my circle of friends, which of course, your circle of friends outside of skydiving starts to shrink pretty dramatically if you get sucked into the sport like a lot of us do.
Mhm.
So I went from being really cool with my non-skydiving friends to the fucking new guy that was trying to soak everything up, on the drop
Yep.
zone. But even that was cool too, because it was that you had to learn to navigate the social and political aspect of skydiving as well as learning how to jump, which all just made it really fun.
Yeah, that was one of the most appealing things I thought when I first started, is that sense of community that begins immediately, right? Like, you're a jumper, I'm a jumper, we're friends now,
Yep.
you know?
Yep.
uh, and then the drop zones in Virginia still had this clubby feel. So you would leave Friday afternoon after work, come home really late Sunday night. You would just go camp and be there for the weekend. And whether it's good weather or bad weather, it quickly becomes family, right?
Sure. It was kind of funny because I've looked back on it a few times, and it was very much akin to the couple of years that I spent promoting raves in the Bay Area in San Francisco. It was very much when you're there, it's this family vibe, and everybody is incredibly excited to see you, even though you don't know half of their names. Granted, with
Mhm.
the rave scene, it's a lot of chemical induced
Sure.
entertainment, but it was the same kind of feel as soon as you showed up at the drop zone, you had that family vibe. And then, like, the first time you bump into a skydiver outside the drop zone that you only know they're a jumper because they've got a closing pin necklace on. And all of a sudden, it's just the most amazing thing that you guys have bumped into each other. And it just snowballed. I mean, this podcast only exists because I'm able to message someone like you. We don't know each other, and say, "Hey,
Mhm.
cool pictures, cool story. I'd like to have you on the show." And it's only because we're skydivers that we get to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even now, I could be out with non skydiving friends. You're at the bar or restaurant doing something else, chatting about whatever. You'll hear in the background someone like, "Oh, yeah, I've done 19 jumps," or whatever. And your ears all suddenly perk up, and I'm deaf to whatever the conversation was. I'm like, "What are they talking about?"
Yep.
Or, or they'll say, like, "Skydive Dubai." I'm like, "What about Skydive Dubai?"
Yep.
And I'm very immediately distracted because
Sure.
our tiny little world is still huge,
Sure.
which is always a
Well,
good feeling.
well, I don't know about you, and maybe you see it the same way, maybe you don't, but I found that the more and more years I have in the sport, the less attuned I am to conversations in regard to non-jumpers wanting to know about skydiving. I'm absolutely hooked if it's another skydiver, but I stopped feeling the need to tell non-jumpers about what it's like or fill them in. I'll tell them, "Hey, it's great. You'll have a blast. Let's go out and make a jump." But then I kind of leave it at that instead of feeling the need to give this long diatribe on my skydiving life.
Yeah, absolutely. Even with friends I've known for a long time who don't jump, and they'll ask, I'll get back from a jumping weekend and they're like, "How was it? How'd it go? What happened?" And I'll keep it very concise, like, "Oh, it was good. It was fun, reasonably successful, sunny." And just kind of, unless they have specific questions, leave it at that.
Sure.
Um, and just save those energies to give like the nuanced detail to people who have more, I think,
Sure.
interest and more knowledge.
Well, and I think part of me kind of got burned out on talking to non-jumpers about skydiving because half of the time, the only time the sport got brought up was after some tragedy somewhere. And you just, it's a very difficult thing to explain the way that we as skydivers handle the negative things that happen in the sport so well, because most of us, obviously, if you stay in skydiving, you learn to deal with some of the bad stuff that comes along with it. But it's very hard to tell someone that's not in it what that's like.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I really appreciate anytime we have positive news about
Yes.
skydiving, like in any and every capacity. Um, and sometimes, sometimes I'll catch myself. It'll be something that's not that impressive to a skydiver. You're like, they just did X, Y, and Z. But to the outside observer who doesn't jump, it's really impressive and really neat. And it goes viral. And that always paints the sport in a positive fashion. And,
Oh yeah.
anything we can do to encourage more of that, I think is great.
The flare jump over Eloy.
Hmm.
Man, watching the social media world light up for 24 hours after that came out with people thinking fucking aliens were coming down to Earth. It was the greatest thing. All these TikTok videos and all these Instagram videos of people going, "Oh my God, what was that? What's happening?"
The TikTok videos were the best. Like,
Yes.
out of everything that came out of the event, just the TikTok videos of "Whoa, man, aliens! It's got to be like just flipping out,
Yeah.
and I love it. It brings so much joy to my heart.
Oh yeah. Well, and you kind of want to say, well, yeah, they're kind of aliens. I mean, they're alien to
Mhm.
you for sure.
Right,
You know?
right.
So back to the beginnings a little bit. You kind of got sucked into the sport through the added benefits that you keep getting from jump to jump.
Yep.
But when did you know, fuck, I think this is me now?
Oh wow, that's a tough one. For the first couple years in jumping, I was just living weekend by weekend,
Sure.
um, enjoying the party, the community, just the novelty jumps. Like, oh, I jumped a tailgate, I jumped a raft, I jumped a pumpkin. You know, I don't think it was until I started traveling for skydiving events where I got this broader picture of the sport at large and all the cool stuff you could do with it. Um, I think I was jumping for several years before I really acknowledged or realized there was a nationals like competition. I never really thought about it, but it just never clicked until I was several years in the sport. Like, oh crap, there's like actually serious stuff that goes on here outside my little pond. And I think that was when I started traveling more, meeting more professional skydivers, professional TIs, professional competitors, record setters, just everything the sport could offer.
Now, was there a certain discipline you were drawn to right away, or were you just kind of dipping in everything?
I started free flying almost out the gate.
Okay.
Um, at some point, my AFF, I got stuck on my ass, and as soon as I landed, I was told I'm a free flyer now. Uh, so yeah, coming up at a belly drop zone, anybody who can butt fly, oh, you're a free flyer. Um, and so that just brought on a lot of zoo jumps.
Sure.
Just no plan jam, get out. Maybe we can high five once in a while,
Sure.
and that's a good jump.
I mean, that's kind of how I
Yeah.
started as well. I mean, I started out on a little Cessna drop zone, and you'd roll out the door with the one other fun jumper that was there that day, and it was okay. You grab on here to my leg strap, and I'll grab your arm here, and we'll roll out that way, and you just kind of fucking see what happens.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. I had two or three friends, and we just kept jumping, and it was always like, "Woo, that was awesome!" and land and have some beers, and yeah, whatever kind of shenanigans or mischief we can get into at the drop zone.
Sure. Now, you obviously continued going and doing quite a bit of traveling, and I'm assuming you were banging out as much of the free fly stuff as you could, but you work as an organizer. So, what was the road towards getting to that point and getting the recognition that you need community wide to be able to do that?
Yeah, I started off after traveling and free flying, started trying to do some small free fly coaching on the East Coast where there aren't a lot of free flyers. Um, and then over the years, I started going to more big way camps, learning how to big way fly. Um, and in that process, I was invited to start organizing some local boogies in Virginia, um, which started there. But what really kicked off organizing, I guess, big ways or organizing record jumps was I had participated in several state records.
Hmm.
And I was stoked. I'm like, yeah, awesome accomplishment. And then I found out years later, they never got filed. Like it was totally
Oh,
like, it was like bro code. Like, oh, well, we know we got a record.
oh no.
Right. And then you dig into USPA and your 30-way state record is still like a 5-way. It's like, okay, well, I guess let's try to do one. It was more of a collaborative effort.
Sure.
Um, and then, yeah, over the years, just started trying to organize more state records and sequentials while participating on world records, and just kind of blossomed.
It's funny that you say that you do all these state records that don't get officially recognized, and all I can remember is in 2005. I think it was 2005. I was a tandem instructor at Cross Keys, and we went out in combination with Red Bull to set the world's record for the most tandems done in a day, but nobody bothered to call Guinness. Nobody bothered to call anybody to officiate the thing. And so we banged out what was clearly a record at the time, and it was never recorded anywhere. So I
Mhm.
have a picture that says we did the world's record, but we kind of didn't. So same thing. You're like, but fuck, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think having it recognized in some fashion just adds a formality to it,
Sure.
right? Like if it's not a record, you can say, good enough.
Sure.
But if it is a record, you either did it or you didn't.
Yeah, of course.
And that has a lot of appeal to me.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, me too. Especially because I was a career-long tandem instructor and AFF guy, and never really did a lot of competing outside of the first couple of years I was in the sport. So I was never going to get world records and recognition for that kind of stuff. So that was my one shot at getting something like that. Like, oh well.
Yeah.
So now, during all of this, as you're obviously gaining recognition in free flying, and you're starting to do this organizing, are you working in the sport, or have you got a gig that's getting you by day to day?
No, I have a full-time professional job for the government. It doesn't really bring me joy, but it pays the bills and allows me to pursue skydiving really for fun and
That's
not so
awesome.
much as a supplementary income.
So what kind of work do
Um,
you do?
so I work for the Patent and Trademark Office, doing a lot of quality assurance for them.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a lot of boring paperwork, but again, it lets me live the lifestyle I want.
I was going to say, I would imagine that that probably spurs you on to more and more adventure when your day-to-day life revolves around time at the desk.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It allows me to, I guess, apply all my passion, all my energy and bandwidth to skydiving or other projects that I'm, really interested in.
Sure. Now, what are the coworker government employees think of the fact that you spend your time jumping out of airplanes and climbing mountains?
Well, one of the nice thing about my job is it's almost completely independent. So I
Oh,
work at
nice.
home. I don't really have to interact much with teams or collaborate. I just get my work done. They leave me alone. I leave them alone, and that's pretty much it.
Oh,
And
that's
that's
awesome.
yeah, I think of it as the golden handcuffs, right? Like I'm not going to save the world. I'm a cog in the machine,
Sure.
but the benefits and the flexibility is so good. I can
Sure.
live the lifestyle I want.
Well, now, and especially considering pre-podcast, you had said you just recently got back from a 5-week trip to Nepal. Any job, especially a U.S. job that gives you 5 weeks to piss off to Nepal, is probably a pretty good gig.
Yeah, it's hard to complain with a straight face at least, right? Like I can always complain. I'm very good at that, but in reality, I'm quite fortunate.
Nice. So now the
Yeah.
the mountaineering stuff definitely has a special spark for me. Again, we talked pre-podcast. I've done a few trips to Nepal, and actually have got another one coming up. And you had just done Amadablam, but how did that get started for you? Obviously, you were doing rock climbing younger, but mountaineering, like Amadablam's a different ball game.
Yeah, I moved to Colorado maybe 10 years ago and started doing a lot more climbs out here. I went to Kilimanjaro in 2013, kind of on a whim, and that was a fun hike climb.
Sure.
Living in Colorado and having all these 14,000-foot peaks all around me is really it's been really fun just exploring and trying to summit as many as I can in my little bit of free time. And yeah, for years and years, I've been kind of fascinated with Denali,
Mm,
specifically in Alaska. Um, but I've never really had a route on how to do it, or it was just always like, oh, that's a cool mountain, maybe someday.
sure.
And then over COVID, as we are getting locked down and having a lot of spare time at home, I learned about mountaineering courses, went up and took one in Rainier. And then on the tail end of that, there was one opening the next season for Denali. So I signed up for Denali. Um, and now I'm trying to do some more unguided missions up Rainier or Azaba, hopefully Peru next year. But yeah, I just enjoy kind of the solitude and the personal challenge that comes with these mountains.
Sure. Now, how was Denali? Because I hear that can go either way. It can either go smoothly or be an incredible challenge.
Denali was the best. I loved it. For sure. It was very challenging. It's a full expedition. I think it was 22 days on the glacier.
Hmm.
Um, but man, it's so damn cool, right? Like, uh, you hop in on an otter, which is on skis.
Yeah.
It lands on the glacier. The otter flies away, and there you are. Like, there's no civilization in sight. You see one ranger tent, and you're like, you're in it now. Like we're right in the thick. So you're committed, and it's really cool. And the camaraderie that comes with working with your rope team and everyone else on the expedition was just really rewarding. It's like friends for life.
Sure. Well, it's that band of brothers mentality, right? I mean, you've gone through something together. It's the same thing that I think does bond skydivers together to some degree because we're going out and doing something that, bar none, is dangerous, and everybody is aware of that. And you kind of have those special bonds with someone that's willing to step off that plane with you. It's got to be the same, if not more so, with someone that's willing to rope up with you because there's a lot of trust involved with being on the other end of a rope from someone.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, sharing a tent with somebody, being in a storm that's 40 below zero together. Yeah, kind of being in the suck, realizing you packed snacks you really don't want to eat. So someone being kind enough to share their Oreos,
Sure.
all the little things. And then like having a final summit push and people kind of like hitting the wall,
Yeah.
bonking out or realizing kind of their turnaround point. And it's very humbling and
Sure.
it's very vulnerable to like build a bond and then tell your friends and your brothers like I can't do it for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And yeah, when you show somebody that kind of vulnerability, I think that's the time that you really build those bonds.
Sure.
Some of my best friends over the years, our friendships have really peaked after they or I were injured.
Mm. Sure.
Like you're in this state of vulnerability and it makes or breaks that friendship, I think.
Sure. No, absolutely. What do you think it is about people that makes some of us enjoy, to use your term, the suck so much, because I find myself drawn back to situations that when I'm in them are just fucking miserable in a wonderful way.
Yeah, it's just this shared experience that's unique, I think, right? I mean, even in skydiving, now when I travel and it's a family reunion, we see our friends. When we talk about past events, almost never do we talk about, hey, remember that weekend that was so sunny, perfect weather, all the jumps went exactly as expected. Yeah, good times.
Right.
No, it's like, oh, remember what a slog this was? Then we landed in the corn and you tore your canopy and blah blah, like all this, like the crappy experiences.
Yeah.
Again, I think that's where bonds are forged.
I completely agree. It's kind of funny because after my last trip to Nepal, I would try and explain to people that hadn't done the base camp trek before that it's quite challenging for someone that's got no mountaineering experience, and no matter what, altitude is altitude. It kicks your ass, and when you're trying to hike with a full pack above 18,000 feet, there's no way to say it's enjoyable. It's not, but it's an accomplishment putting one foot in front of the other. Although I can't tell you why, I enjoyed it when I was there, because it really is just miserable when it's happening. But that sense of accomplishment when you kick your boots off and realize you made it somewhere you weren't quite sure you could is almost indescribable.
Yeah, that kind of type 2 fun where the reward comes when it's all done, all
Yep,
said and over. You're not enjoying it in the moment, but you're proud of yourself for what you're able to accomplish through perseverance. And
absolutely.
that's a kind of fun and enjoyment like that really resonates with me.
Sure. So, if we have somebody listening that is really attracted towards the idea of getting into the big way thing, but they don't really have a direction yet, I have a lot of listeners from a Facebook page called the Beginner Skydiving Forum that's got tons of members, and if one of them is listening and they're like, "That big way stuff sounds fantastic, but it looks terrifying," what advice do we have? Where do you get started with something like that, and how would you aim them?
Yeah, that's a great question. In the past, whenever the record circuit would begin or big way season would begin, the market would get flooded with 40 and 60 ways, which is obviously a little daunting to someone who's a little newer to it. What Project 19 I did that I think was really awesome, they introduced this idea of like starting phase one camps, um, which is just the idea of having organized, smaller instructional big way camps with the goal of getting you up to speed to do larger events.
Hmm,
So essentially building the pipeline,
sure.
right? And I think that's a great idea. And since they did it in Project 19, we've seen Stand Together, which is the upright world record coming up, doing phase one camps, the vertical world record 200 way next year, starting with phase one camps. And this idea of essentially it's a longer strategy, like taking people who are beginners who want to get into big ways and give them a clear path to go all the way from beginner big ways to world records.
Sure.
And I think that's a successful strategy. And Project 19 did a great job at it, and we're all kind of plagiarizing from there.
Sure. Now, for those even further back than that, what are the skill sets that you're looking to get as close to perfecting as you can before you should even start thinking about big way stuff?
Yeah, the pretty much it's a safety consideration.
Sure.
One is, can you reasonably approach? So can you dive or float ish safely? Can you approach safely? And then can you break off safely?
Mm,
And to break off safely, let's say from head down, you need to be able to turn 180 degrees in place and do a controlled transition to a backtrack.
mm.
So that kind of goes through a bit of a backside angle fly, then a slow transition to your back. A lot of those skill sets will get developed at these phase one big wave camps, but you should be able to do some of those in smaller groups, 4, 6, 8, with reasonable predictability.
And I'm imagining stuff like entry level angle camps and stuff like that are great starters for people trying to aim that direction.
Yeah, huge. Uh, Being able to angle fly or at least have some exposure to it, plays a huge role, obviously in break off,
Mm.
getting away safely, but it also plays a role in the approach,
Sure.
right? So if you're floating, you're approaching a head down formation from below. So this is similar to a backside angle. If you're diving, being comfortable going really fast while still having that awareness. Um, and generally, if you're an angle flyer, you have that awareness to dynamically evaluate your approach vector and adjust it in a safe fashion.
Well, sure, because I mean, some of these diving exits are coming from, last exit out the plane. They've got a great amount of distance to cover, not just vertically, but they've got an angle to work with as well. So the speed and the control has got to be incredibly precise.
Absolutely. And then in the larger formations, we'll frequently use multiple aircraft, and the trail aircraft will be split where half of them are floaters and half of them are divers. But that usually puts maybe four flyers in the gray area. You're coming out in a maybe float, maybe dive situation,
Right.
and you have to quickly realize what's the situation and how do I adapt.
Sure. Well, and
Mhm.
I mean, there's so many different things in play with something like that, right? I mean, I spent my time flying any big way stuff up at the front of the plane. So by the time the last person's out the door, my job's done. All I got to do
Mhm.
is keep the wings level and not get too close or too far away. But with formations, I mean, no formation is ever going to be quite the same. There's always going to be variations. So I'd imagine you've got to be able to step out the door and instantly adjust to a new situation.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because we were discussing what makes the memories and what bonds. Even looking at back at past records, the stories I remember are the record we got after somebody tripped out the door, tumbled, managed to reorient, find everything, get there, go to the wrong slot, realize, go to the right slot, like all the mess ups, and yet we persevere and set a record. And those are the funny stories that really stick out to me.
Sure. Well, and I mean, let's face it, with the big way stuff, there's a lot of drama that is involved in it as well, simply because you're obviously setting out with this collective goal that not necessarily everyone going out for is going to be up for. I mean, especially when it comes to picking the lineup for the actual records and having to do the cuts, that's gotta suck from an organizing perspective as well. I mean, it's gotta suck to be cut, but it's gotta be even harder to be the one to go, look, you're on the bench for this one.
Yeah. um Nobody wants to cut anybody, nobody
Sure.
wants to be cut. um Anytime I have to cut somebody, I view it as a failure on my part as an organizer. Either I could have done a better job organizing to make sure you stay on. Like sometimes we have to cut because of weather or just poor attempts, or it's not always performance based.
Sure.
Um, Sometimes like I feel bad if I have to cut someone where that's on me for giving an invite to someone who maybe wasn't ready for this.
Sure.
So yeah, like I hate having to cut somebody, and I try really hard to avoid it.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I think the records are stressful, not just for fear of cuts, but by definition, if we're doing a record, it's never been done before. So there's a huge element of unknown, especially at the world level.
Sure.
Um, Even though your job should be similar to doing this in a smaller formation, we've never done it. Like
Hmm.
there's so many things we don't know, and we have to find out the hard way. Um, and unfortunately, when we find something out the hard way in skydiving, it's can usually be a little dangerous.
Sure. Well,
So I
and
think it's
especially when you're talking world level attempts for records, you're talking incredibly large logistics involved in trying to get everything together, from the packing mat to the aircraft to the operation to the landing areas. I mean, holy shit. So that's got to add an incredible amount of pressure to the people organizing, because you realize what's going on to get you there.
yeah, Dean. It's not even that. It's also like we need porta potties. How are we going to feed everybody? How do they have access to water? Where will they park? Um, just the back end logistics of, oh, we have hundreds of people assembling in this one area at one time. How do we handle all the logistics?
Sure.
How do we, do we have a PA system? Not every drop zone has an auditorium. Or are we just going to yell, which really stinks after a couple days, right? Lots of things. So yeah, there's so much going on and so much to juggle at any kind of record event, whether it's regional, national, global. It's just a lot to take into consideration. But so, anyways, long story short, I think that it's totally justified to be nervous and apprehensive when you come to these events for a myriad of reasons.
Sure. So what is a Matt's just gonna go fuck around weekend look like?
Right now, if I have a weekend, I'm sitting at home with my fiance and my dog. I got to be honest.
Fair enough.
But generally, if I have spare time, I just disappear into the mountains for a day or two.
Nice.
Especially in the winter, I really enjoy going up there, doing some high peaks by myself when it's snowy, quiet, there's nobody around. That's my go-to.
There's something to be said for that for sure. I have fallen in love with wandering through snow-covered woods since moving to Finland. Just
Mhm.
getting out in the middle of nowhere and doing absolutely nothing, just wandering, doing your thing. It's pretty fantastic.
Yeah, it's a nice way to decompress. So I'm pretty introverted. I don't like public speaking, and after any big way or large event, my social battery is smoked. So I'm excited to just be quiet and
Yep.
disappear for a little bit and recharge.
You know, it's funny too, because I like to call myself an extroverted introvert. You can stick me in the house and leave me there for a week, and as long as I've got food and something to drink, I'm fine. I don't need to come up for air. And then I'm happy to go socialize, but I'm the first one to ghost the party almost all the time. And I can be very social, but I shift out of that quite quickly. And it actually surprises me how many skydivers are actually like that because we're usually all so outgoing and happy at the drop zone.
Yeah, I wonder at the drop zone, I think we're frequently in our comfort zone.
Mm,
Again, you're with family and you can just be whatever you want with family.
sure.
Um, but yeah, if I go to social situations outside the drop zone, I'm even more exhausted and less motivated to, or less energetic, might be a better way to describe it.
Yeah, no, I'm exactly the same way. I think most of my wife's friends didn't think I existed for at least the first year and a half because every time they would have an event that she'd
Mhm.
give me an out for, I just wouldn't go. Like, no, I'm good. Have fun, babe. Say hi to everybody for me. So, what have you got coming up? The season is kind of starting to wrap up. I mean, winter's not too far around the corner. So, what's next for you in skydiving, and then what comes when the season gets cold?
Yeah, coming up next is USPA Nationals. Then I'm off to the World Meet in North Carolina, and then prepping for the upright world record. So that's the rest of my 2024 as it's winding down.
Nice.
And then hopefully I'll get to use my ski pass a little more than I did this past year. But yeah, looking forward to 2025, ramping up, starting the prep work for the 200 ways, which
Man,
is just a behemoth of planning and events and
where's
working with
where's
Rick
that going to
Nelson.
be?
Skydive Chicago.
It is going to be in Chicago.
Yep.
I mean, honestly, I can't think of anywhere else that's better suited to host an event like that.
Yeah, it's I mean, you can make an argument for other places, but Chicago has a nice history of successfully hosting. Just the logistics, to my point, of porta potties,
Yeah,
water, food, but planes, lodging, logistics. Skydive Chicago is very well suited to hosting such a large event,
sure.
and they certainly have the history and the reps that they, I think, know how to handle those logistics. Now we just got to figure out the sky portion.
Sure, sure,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, and that's got to take an incredible amount of planning too. I mean, for anybody that doesn't know much about big waves, which I certainly don't. The one thing I do know is it's not just make a quick design and go out and try and get it done.
No, there's usually, so with past world records, insane numbers of meetings between the organizers, right? It takes a village. So you have a full crew of experienced organizers. and discussing everything from the plane splits to the approach order to slotting to break off, um, and really trying to think through each scenario so you can try to anticipate or minimize the surprises
Nice.
as much as you can.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Now, before I let you go, I have to ask because you just climbed Amadablam, which
Mhm.
is what's the summit on that? How high?
It's 22,000 feet and change. So it's a
Okay,
6,800 meter peak.
which is a prize. Is that your first over 6,000?
Nope. Denali is technically
Oh yeah,
6,000.
yeah. You
Yeah.
did tell me
Hmm.
Denali. Yeah.
Hmm.
So, was it? I know that you said Nepal was kind of bittersweet. Nepal definitely has some issues that I agree with. They've got a problem with the trash on the mountain, and I know that
Hmm.
they try and fix it, but so many tourists that go through that place just don't respect where they're at. But the climbing itself, you said you climbed 2 days. How did you find it?
I found it, I would have enjoyed it more off of fixed ropes, right? So most of the mountains in Nepal, the Sherpas have set fixed ropes through all the technical sections. So Amida Blam has some climbs that are 5.8, water ice 2. But you're using ascenders and Jumars to go up. And that wasn't the type of climbing I usually enjoy.
Hmm.
Otherwise, I would have enjoyed it much more. But logistically, it would take much longer to go set your own line, lead it. When you're doing thousands of vertical feet of mixed climbing, it's a time suck.
Well, sure.
Um,
And I would
yeah.
imagine too, just for them alone, I mean, they've kind of gotten Nepal down with any of the popular peaks just down to almost a conveyor belt, right? Um, get up, get down, because the lines are long and there's somebody behind you that needs that rope.
Yeah, fortunately, I was the only person on the whole mountain, just me and my Sherpa, which was like very rewarding. But frequently in the fall, this mountain and other mountains, yeah, it's just an assembly line of get them up there, touch the top, picture time, get off.
Sure.
And the Sherpas are so incredibly strong and talented, but they're part of the machine. So if you want, they'll push and they'll pull,
Yep.
they'll get you there. Um, so it was a different kind of vibe compared to say Alaska, where no one's going to help you get to the top. Like, you're part
Sure.
of the team and you do it under your own willpower or you don't. So it's just a different experience.
Sure. Well, I think Nepal is geared a lot more towards, I hate to say it, somebody like me, who has done the routes that I've done there, and I've seen 5,700 meters, and I want to see 6,000 meters on my own 2 feet. So I'm going to go back on
Mhm.
a very guided, very overprotected, and I'm going to have somebody basically escort me up to the top of Island Peak because I want to say that I made it up that 6,000 meter peak and saw it for
Mhm.
myself, you know. But for you, obviously, the technical stuff is the real appeal.
Yeah, and that's a nice thing about mountaineering. Like, it's your own journey.
Sure.
Enjoy it. Do it what makes you happy. And
Awesome.
I'm not going to judge how you climb and what motivates you.
Sure.
It just might differ from mine.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, with that, man, tell everybody how they can try and find out more about Big Way stuff, how they can find out about camps or organizing that you're going to be doing. How do they find Matt Fry?
Yeah, easiest way. So Stand Together has a website with all the lists for the upright camps. Vertical Elite on the Skydive Chicago page has lots of stuff with upcoming camps. Or just shoot me a message. I'll send you a
Awesome.
list.
Well, I tell you what, man, you were as easy as can be. I sent you a couple of the messages. We chatted back and forth a little bit and we're able to set this up. And I really appreciate you taking the time from an incredibly busy schedule to kind of fill me in on the Big Way and mountaineering world.
Absolutely. Dean, thank you so much for having me on.
All right, Matt, thank you so much.
Well, there you have it. Another episode of the Lunatic Fringe podcast, brought to you as always by, well, wait, not as always, actually. Brought to you now by Gyro. Formerly known as NZ Aerosports, you'll head to gyro.com for their next level line of canopies. By Pussfoot, the Extreme Sports Collective. Head over to pussfoot.com to check it out. By Summit Parachute Systems, check out summitparachutesystems.com to talk to Jarrett Martin and the gang about kick-ass pilot rigs, rigging courses, and more. By Flyaway Indoor Skydiving, go to flyawaytn.com and check out all the cutting-edge stuff to come. By Pure Spectrum CBD, head to purespectrumcbd.com to check out their wide range of CBD products. And as for us, head to the lunaticfringepodcast.com to listen to any of the hundreds of episodes currently available, hit the link for our YouTube channel, pick up your copy of the Lunatic Fringe book or The Accidental Stripper, and get a sneak peek at upcoming guests. Once again, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.